Okay, welcome to history. We will continue with pilgrims, and we are going to start the card, and you should have the paper in the packet that I sent home. The Mayflower lands at Plymouth, and we'll read the back of it tomorrow. But for today, I wanted us to read from my story of the world, and so today in history is going to be a little bit of story time. Before we start, let's remind ourselves why we study our history, and it's our verse would be Jeremiah 30, verse 2. God speaking to Jeremiah, thus speaks the Lord God of Israel, saying, write in a book for yourself all the words that I have spoken to you. And so the Bible is God-breathed and is an example of a written record, and God has dictated that we do that. And so we are learning what has been written down before us, and we're learning from it. So I'm going to start, and it's New Colonies in the New World, Strangers and Saints in Plymouth. While the Tokugawa was establishing his shogunate in Japan, Henry Hudson was searching for the Northwest Passage in Canada. And the Jamestown colonists, remember we studied Jamestown, were struggling for survival in Virginia. And in England, a young man named William Bradford was making a difficult decision to leave his home country forever. William Bradford was a Puritan, an English Protestant who wanted the Church of England purified of everything borrowed from the Catholic Church, including candles, incense, altars, priests, and prayer books. But unlike other Puritans, Bradford and his friends had given up hope that the Church of England would ever be purified. So they separated from the English Church and held their own services. Other Englishmen called them separatists because they separated. King James, and we studied about King James, and Jamestown was named after King James, and he also wrote the King James Version Bible, had it published. King James forced separatists to pay high taxes. He told separatists that they could not use church buildings. William and his friends had to meet in barns and stables, and William knew that the king's soldiers would take any opportunity to arrest him and throw him into jail. So he and the other separatists decided to leave England and go to a country where they could worship God in their own way and in freedom. Where would they go? Holland. They decided on Holland. So, in our map, make sure you can see, we have England here, and then Holland is pointed to right there, okay? So they went to Holland first, hoping to find religious freedom. The homeland of the Dutch welcomed Protestants, and since Holland was so close to England, the journey would not be long. William Bradford and other separatists packed their belongings and families into a tiny wooden ship and sailed across the North Sea to Holland. They settled down in a small Dutch town called Leyden, where the separatists were free to meet together in churches. They did not have to pay extra taxes or worried about being arrested. William Bradford soon married another English separatist, a young woman named Dorothy. Together they had a son named John. But in Leyden, little John Bradford and other separatist children learned to speak Dutch. They played with Dutch friends and learned to wear wooden shoes and to skate on the icy canals. They began to forget English and their separatist beliefs as well. Some of the children were drawn away from their parents. William Bradford later wrote, some became soldiers, others ran away to sea, others took even worse courses, further from the ways of their fathers. William Bradford and the other separatist fathers wanted to take their families to a country where they could raise their children as good English separatists, but they couldn't go back to England, so where could they go? What about North America, they said to each other. The English who settled in Jamestown are free to do as they please. If we traveled to North America, we too could establish our own colony, a place where every citizen obeys God. The journey to North America was long and dangerous, but 50 of the separatists were willing to go. Their leaders traveled back to England and went to visit rich English merchants. Supply us with money to buy a boat and food, the Separatists promised, and we'll share with you all the gold and jewels we find in our new homeland. Several merchants agreed to pay for the ship and supplies on one condition. The 50 Separatists had to take along 60 other settlers. 50 men, women, and children couldn't establish a colony all alone. The Separatists met the other settlers for the first time as they boarded their new ship, the Mayflower. They called these new colonists strangers and called themselves saints. But William Bradford used another name. He called the whole group of settlers pilgrims. Christians as a holy quest to build a colony where God would be worshipped. Today we often borrow Bradford's name and call the whole group of settlers, strangers and saints alike, the Pilgrims. Now we'll continue this tomorrow, okay? And we'll read a little bit more about that, and we'll also read probably the back of this tomorrow. If you want to go ahead and look at that, you're more than welcome to. But that is it for history today, okay?